I'd like to welcome in Jeff Pierce, the Senior Manager of Derivatives Trading for Charles Schwab, to talk about the latest headlines in some of the Mag 7 names. So we'll start off with Alphabet. I think this is maybe more of the interesting story, with shares down 3%, Jeff, and DOJ concerns are looming. And then everyone's responding. I think this is actually the most legs I've seen the Department of Justice have really in a case so far, at least as far as like the market giving it credit. But walk us through what your thoughts are here with DOJ versus Alphabet.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of legs to the story, and also, the potential impacts we could see following this ruling could be very big for Alphabet. On August 5th, the federal judge ruled that the company's practices related to search and ads operated in a legal monopoly and suppressed competition, violating those antitrust laws. Now we're seeing that the DOJ is weighing a potential breakup of Google. Alphabet doing about $20 billion in annual payments to Apple to make them their default search engine for iPhones. That was a big part of that case. The second phase of the trial is now going to be determined by the federal court. The DOJ and Google have until September 4th to present the possible scenarios, and then the judge is set to hear the considerations on September 6th. But the DOJ has said they have made no decisions on their course of action at this point. They're going to evaluate the court's decision and decide on next steps. Bloomberg cited people familiar with the matter, saying that the agency's trying to split up the company. The Android operating system and Chrome browser would be the likeliest segment to be separated. They also said that the DOJ is considering a sell-off of AdWords, Google's ad sales platform. And according to reports, the DOJ would consider an attempt to prohibit the exclusionary contracts that Google spent billions of dollars on to become the default search engine for many of those mobile users. So it could be a big impact as we see this coming up over the next month.
Yeah, Jeff, this is, I think, a fascinating story, and I think the jury is obviously still out on, no pun intended, on whether or not this will ultimately even be negative for shareholders. Just the scrutiny in general, I think, highlights just generally a risk that all these big mega cap tech firms have, given their size and positions in their marketplace. But we don't actually have any clue on a time frame. We have no clue on ultimately what the final outcome will be. Is it going to be a split off company? Is it going to be one that's going to be fined? Is it going to be one that's going to, be no longer able to do what it has been in terms of sort of buying its, position in the market? Could be a combination of all of those too. You combine that with a stock that's $40 or $30, I guess, off its all-time high, a market that's bouncing back, but an Alphabet that isn't. This could be just a situation, I think, Jeff, and I'd love your thoughts on this, that maybe some investors just think this is more trouble than it's worth at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think other tech names are certainly going to be impacted by this decision somewhat. At the very least, at seeing the DOJ possibly get a win here, we've seen them struggle with some of these cases in the past. But big tech companies are going to be concerned about this. To your point, we don't know what the decision is going to be. Even if it was breaking up the company and splitting off different areas, that wouldn't necessarily impact the company in a negative way. And we could see less severe outcomes as well, allowing other companies to use Google technologies, including the AI side of it, preventing Google from making some of those, types of deals that we saw in the past. Not necessarily going to break Google, right? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think it's going to be interesting for the entire tech sector, especially knowing that some of the practices that Google has done have been done very similarly across other names. But, this breakup bid would be the first attempt we've seen in a very long time. We saw a Microsoft settlement back in 2004 on a similar attempt. It would be it's going to be an interesting development. It'll be interesting for those names. Is it necessarily going to impact the stock negatively to a big degree? I think that remains to be seen, but all likelihood, it doesn't seem like it's going to.
So, okay, now let's shift gears here and let's talk about Meta, because we do see this Threads adding some new features. I honestly didn't even know Threads was still around after the biggest launch ever and then one of the biggest flops I can recall as far as social media goes. Jeff, what is the latest here with Threads?
Yeah, I think that's why we're seeing some of these actions take place, right? Meta is reportedly developing their latest app, Threads, new feature that will allow posts and replies to disappear after 24 hours. The function for short-term posts isn't new. Most notably, that's a function in Snapchat. But but it could help rival some of those competitors by appealing to consumers that prefer their content to not exist permanently. The Threads app is most like Twitter. They no longer offer that type of content option. As a result, the only way to disappear Twitter post or X post is via third-party services. Now, we know WhatsApp launched a very similar messaging tool on Android and iPhone back in 2020 and 2021. Whether the disappearing posts on Threads will ever roll out for broader testing remains to be seen. We know Meta tends to run these trials for quite some time, and sometimes they don't even end up using the features. There's tons of features we've heard about even over the last year, like Peak and some of the friend map, and none of those have really been rolled out to the full extent that I think some consumers thought they would be.
Jeff, I know you're a big fan of next-gen investing, so you knew that this show from the beginning told you Threads was not going to dethrone Twitter, and it looks like, at least so far, that prediction has proven true. Meta needs to come up with some original ideas. Look, they're doing great in the digital ad space. Few bigger town squares than you can imagine than Facebook or Instagram. But come up with some original ideas. But we'll leave it there. Appreciate it. Jeff Pierce, as always, Senior Manager, Derivatives Trading, Charles Schwab & Co. Great insights.